What's good, everyone? Welcome back. It's been a while. For those of you who've joined for the first time, I'm making a samurai game that's kind of like if Hotline Miami, Samurai Champloo, and Cowboy Bebop all had a very cool baby. It is now 3 in the morning, September 23rd, 2024, and I have accomplished great things for humanity. That's right, the game is called Sick Samurai. I've actually had this name in mind for the game since the very beginning, and for those of you who've been watching for a long time, you may have noticed that I have been hinting at this from the very first video. Every time when I would say this game is... Game's looking really sick. Game's looking ultra sick. Game's looking super sick. Game's looking godlike sick. Game's looking super duper humpty dumpty sick. The game is looking magnificently sick. Game's looking mind-bogglingly sick. Game's looking real sick. Game's looking mighty sick. Game's looking tremendously sick. Game's looking ultra sick. The game is looking absolutely sick. Sick. So, you've seen the new intro to the game. You've seen the main menu, so now let's go ahead and I'm going to show you everything else I've been working on. There is so much to go over. This is going to be my biggest video yet, and honestly, I'm probably even going to forget some things, so let's get started. Now, let's start off with some of the simple changes I've made to the game. First of all, at the end of the level, when you finally cleared it, you get a nice big cleared text that shows up, a slow motion effect that's been adjusted from before, and you can now also see that we have improved the player sword sheathing animation that you do as a badass little emphasis on how you just totally kicked ass. I made the slash effects a lot bigger, which I felt gave a much better sense of impact when you kill enemies. It's much more satisfying. Also made it so that in the bottom left corner where you have your little energy pool thing, it flashes every time you kill a guy, and in the top right corner you've got the combo counter, which is a little bit bigger now whenever it bounces every time you kill a guy as well. So all of these effects really combine together to give you a very satisfying feeling every time you kill a guy. I've also made an improvement to the effects related to opening the doors, and by opening I mean smashing through them. As you can see, doors are now double-sided. I used to have the doors only on one side. I think it looks a lot better with it being on both sides. It makes everything more consistent, and I felt like sometimes you don't always get the full impact of feeling like you're smashing through the door with all the debris flying everywhere, because based on the lighting, sometimes you might not see the debris very clearly. So just to give it a little more emphasis, I threw in a little bit of this smoke effects that happens every time you pop through, and now it feels even more satisfying. And thanks to the doors now being double-sided, you can now much more clearly see that the doors are locking behind you when you enter into a room, which is informative, but also I think it just looks cool. The second enemy type in the game is of course our dashing enemy, and if you mistime your attack and you attack at the same time as them, you clash with them. So I've updated the effects for that. It's a lot more satisfying there as well now. I've shown you guys the first item in the game, the shuriken item of course, which you can throw at enemies to kill them from ranged. And then our second item in the game is the stun bomb slash flashbang item, whose effects have now been updated as well. You can see it here knocking the enemies back, doing a cool kind of like visual flashbang style effect. And over at Jones's Bar, where you'll be hanging out, acquiring new items, and talking to other characters in between levels, we've got a new animation for Jones. Here he is, chilling. Now, if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, strap yourself in because it's about to get a lot better. Let's get into the real meat of the changes I've made first with the lighting and visuals overhaul that I've done for the whole game. As I mentioned many times before, one of the biggest references that I've been using for the style of the game has been Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop, and one of the things that I noticed about those shows, and I don't know if this has to do with how they used to draw the art and then scan it in order to put it on TV, but something about the way they used to do it created a kind of effect with the colors that to me always felt a little washed out. And I don't mean to say washed out in a bad way. I actually really like it, and I wanted to imitate that in the game. And on top of the particular style of colors that they have, there's also what I can only best describe as a kind of bloom effect in a lot of scenes. For example, here in this even darker scene in Samurai Champloo, where you have brighter colors such as from the moonlight, there's always this kind of blooming, glowy sort of effect around anything that's bright like that. So I wanted to do my best to get that kind of look into the game, and after a lot of screwing around, came up with a few ideas. First of all, we have the film grain effect. That's been there for a while now. I made it, I think, a little bit more intense since the last time I showed you guys. On top of that, in the post-processing effects, I added just a tiny little bit of decontrast and desaturation, just a touch of it to give the colors a little bit of that washed out feeling. But most important of all, and the hardest one to nail, was the kind of like bloomy sort of effect. Now, recreating that bloomy sort of effect was actually very difficult. I found that with just regular bloom post-processing, it was hard to get that effect without everything starting to glow way too much. But eventually I was able to find a solution that looks pretty damn good and gives a very, very similar feel, which was by using volumetric lighting. And if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like how in real life when you have a sunbeam that's like shooting through the trees on a foggy or misty sort of day, it's that kind of look. I think it looks fantastic and really captures the feeling of those older shows. You can see here in the tutorial level, this is one of my favorite looking scenes right now with how the lighting is standing over top of the guys here. And also in this little traveling scene between you and Genyu, the way that the light looks coming in from the side I think looks really, really great as well. Now let's step things up a bit and talk about a brand new gameplay mechanic. It's nothing too crazy, but basically I wanted to add just like one more dimension to the gameplay, partly because I felt like something was missing, but mostly because I realized that I just needed some extra level of complexity to design the enemies for the third act of the game. But the idea is that basically you now have two dashes that both run on their own cooldowns separately. One of them is your regular attacking dash that you've seen for the entire time I've been making this game. The second one is a dodge dash. It works exactly the same way, and the only difference is that when you use it, you won't actually hit anyone along the way. Now, there are many advantages to this. First of all, it's now another option that you have for escaping when you make a mistake. Secondly, it can be used simply to move faster through the levels, which I will show you an example of soon enough. Thirdly, it's a safer way of moving around because with your attacking dash, for example, you can still get hit by things like kickable objects. And finally, like I said, I needed another dimension for the gameplay, so it just adds a new thing that you have to learn how to do and get used to, mostly towards the end of the game. But the idea is I'm going to have enemies and probably boss fights that are going to require you to understand the difference between using your dodge and your attack, and you'll have to dodge through certain enemies to be able to attack them afterwards. So thanks to this new dodge mechanic, you can now move even faster through this insanely fast game, and as a demonstration, I am now going to show you the world record speedrun for the game's first level. That's right, folks, less than 9 seconds. That's my challenge to you when the game eventually comes out, or when the demo comes out, because it will include this level. Now, in my last videos, I showed you guys one of the most genius ideas of all time, which was the cigarette timer. The idea is that Genyu's going to be smoking a cigarette outside of the level every time you're running through it, and in order to get a perfect score, you have to beat the level before he finishes his cigarette. So we had this cigarette timer at the top of the screen that's burning down as you go through the level. So first of all, we've got a new icon for the cigarette that we drew ourselves. The old one I was using was actually taken from like a stock image website, but don't tell anyone about that. But even better than that, we now have an actual animation for Genyu smoking the cigarette. A full loop, he's lighting his cigarette, he's smoking it, we got the smoke coming out, we got the lighting effects and everything, the animations of course, thanks to our animator Maria. And to top it all off, when he's done with his cigarette, he will even flick it off in the distance like a badass. Now you guys saw the UI for the main menu, you saw the intro, well guess what? I've got some more UI for you. How about some dialogue UI? Check out these sick portraits we've got, some cool brush strokes for the text box, a nice font. Everything is set up, and we've got a system for making dialogue choices. Now you'll notice that you've got 3 dialogue choices here. They are color-coded, green, blue, and red. I wrote the characters' dialogue choices on the idea of having 3 different personality types that you can choose from. Now all the text you're seeing here is obviously placeholder stuff, but in the actual script, the personality type I have in mind when I'm writing all the green responses is kind of like a Goku type character, like sort of innocent, naive, just wants a good fight, not necessarily so much meant to be like a good guy type character like Goku literally is, but just the general idea of a kind of happy-go-lucky character. Then for the blue personality type, I imagine something like Gene from Samurai Champloo when he was a young student. So this is meant to be more like a very honor code abiding, super serious type of character. So for his personality type, I'm always writing stuff like, yes, sensei. It is an honor to spill the blood of your enemies and shit like that, you know? And then finally in the red, you have the kind of like cocky, arrogant sort of personality type, which is always going to be saying stuff like, you know, come on, bro, this game is easy. Give me a challenge. Come on, what are you doing? Let's go ahead and move on to the backpack UI. As you move throughout the game, you'll be acquiring different items that you can use, and then at the beginning of every level, you can reach into the backpack that Genyu is carrying all your stuff in. You have a limited number of items you can carry, but beyond that, you're free to mix and match however many items and whatever types of items you want. And then when you're good and ready and you click done, you get to see the badass sword drawing animation, which now has a little bit of extra lighting, red lighting effect that I added there to emphasize it. And you can hear the badass new sound effect for it as well, courtesy of our sound designer Lorenzo. And speaking of sound effects, we've got a whole bunch of new sound effects, so many new ones, in fact, honestly, I've kind of lost count. So I'm just gonna go ahead and play a clip here for you demonstrating all the sound effects as I run through a level so you can hear them for yourself and see how the game is sounding. Probably one of the most standout and important ones that were recently added was a sound that plays every single time you finish clearing a room. I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to do this because I wanted to keep the whole sound design very like grounded and less gamey, but once we had it in there, I don't know, I kind of got used to it and it feels really satisfying every time hearing that sound to know that you cleared the room. Okay, well that's it. That's everything, probably. I probably forgot some stuff, but it's pretty much the gist of it. I hope you're as pumped as I am. The game has made, obviously, huge strides. Some other new pieces of information. As you may have noticed, I have a new microphone. Goodbye to my old Blue Yeti. I salute him, he did a good job. Now the reason for this new microphone is not only because I want to serenade you with my voice during these videos, but also because, as I've mentioned before, we're going to have voice acting in the game, and I selected myself to play the role of Genyu, and I want the voice recordings to be as high quality as possible, so that's the reason for the new setup. The song that played at the beginning of this video and throughout the remainder of it is the first ever song fully mixed and mastered by yours truly exclusively for the game. I'm going to post a YouTube video of that if you want to give it a proper listen. I think it's fucking dope, and now that I have significantly improved my music production skills, I'm really looking forward to making more of the music for the game. And now what's coming up next is getting the Steam store page up. Hoping to do that within the next like 3 weeks max. Originally was aiming for September, now we're in October, so a little bit late, but hey, that's how it goes. But nonetheless, I'm happy with where we're at. I'll have that up soon, and in fact, we already have the Steam capsule art done, also thanks to our awesome artist Amanda again. Very sick indeed. So next few weeks, there's a few visual things I still wanted to work on. I had some ideas mainly for changing how the score system works. I'm not really that big of a fan still of how the text pops up, so I want to change that. And a couple other minor things, but mainly I'm just going to be working on getting a trailer finished and ready for the Steam store page. Want to make sure we make a nice big impact when we get that page out there, so I'm going to make sure to do my best to try to let the whole world know about it, get as many wish lists as possible, you know, make sure that that all this fucking work I'm putting in pays off to some degree. I know many of you may have been thinking that I had given up. You know, there's a lot of people on here probably start games, start a YouTube channel, make a bunch of videos, and then they just kind of disappear. Nothing ever ultimately gets finished. It's understandable. A lot of projects get abandoned. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. But I'm all in, folks. If nothing else, this game will get done. If a week goes by and I don't post something, don't worry. It's coming. So if you like what you see here, please comment, like, and subscribe if you want regular updates on the game and to help me spread the word about it. And now I would like to have a word or two about YouTube. You, YouTube employee, the one who's sitting there watching this right now, fuck you. Yeah, that's right. Explain something to me. My last video got less than 300 views. What the fuck is that? Now, I had to dig into this and explore. I looked at my analytics. It got just as much viewership as it normally did among people who clicked on the video. They watched it as long as normal. In terms of impressions, the amount of people who clicked on it, like click-throughs or whatever, it was pretty much the same. Everything was the same as some of my most successful videos. But for some reason, your dipshit algorithm decided to just not show it to anyone. So I couldn't understand what could possibly be the reason for this. And then recently I was scrolling on TikTok and I started to notice how everyone keeps saying shit like unalive or PDF files or whatever. And I was like, why the fuck is everyone talking like this? It's so stupid. So being the incredibly intelligent and resourceful person that I am, I did a Google search for why the fuck is everyone saying unalive all the time? And apparently it's called social media speak or something like that. And it's because the algorithms don't like it when people say things about, I guess, the word that I shouldn't say. And so it occurred to me, well, maybe YouTube's algorithm like analyzes images and it saw that on my thumbnail I had the word multi-kill written on there in big letters. And so because of that, it decided to not show my video to people. Or I don't know, maybe I swore too early in the video. I don't even think I did say many swear words in that video. Now, first of all, I'm confused by this because I thought it was generally agreed upon that social media is not intended for children, or probably almost anyone who's not at least a teenager. I know young people probably use it anyway, but nonetheless, that's the intent. So why are these social media companies treating like 90% of people like they're a bunch of fucking babies? I mean, even if you're... I'm sorry, is even a 13-year-old, let's say, they can't handle the word like they don't know what that is. And then because of that, you have people making these videos that look incredibly stupid now because, for example, even if you're trying to make something serious, like you're trying to talk about, I don't know, depression or whatever, and you're treating it as a serious topic, you have to say unalive. If you're having thoughts about unaliving yourself, please call the hotline or whatever the fuck. It sounds like you're mocking people because it sounds so fucking stupid. It sounds so juvenile. So check this out, YouTube. In my game, you kill people. Okay, you don't just kill people. You take a giant sword, you slice through their throats, blood gushes everywhere, splatters across the walls, body parts go flying all over the place. And when you post a video on YouTube, there's this button that says, this video is made for children. Now, normally I don't click that button, but I think from now on I will, because what difference does it make? You're not showing my fucking videos to anyone anyway, so I might as well try and expand my audience to unsupervised 12-year-olds who shouldn't be on the internet. After all, I know this demographic very well, because I used to be part of it. Alright, well, that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you here again next week. Hopefully. Peace.